food trends. They seem to pop up all the time, don't they? One minute it's, I don't know, oat milk everywhere, the next something else.
Yeah, exactly.
But, some changes feel bigger, more fundamental, especially when we talk about protein, where we get it from.
Absolutely. That whole shift towards plant-based options, it's really picking up speed, and it's shaking things up for specific ingredients.
Which brings us right to today's deep dive. We've got a bunch of insights here from a recent market research report, and it's all about the global textured pea protein market.
Right. And our goal here isn't just to read off the numbers. We want to really dig into this source material, understand why textured pea protein, this specific ingredient, is suddenly so important.
Yeah, why now? And where is it heading?
Exactly. Get a clear picture of where it's going in the next, say, 5 to 10 years.
And look, this isn't some tiny niche thing anymore. You should definitely pay attention because the numbers are, well, pretty staggering. The report puts the market at USD 280 million right now in 2025.
Which is already substantial.
Right. But then look ahead, it's projected to more than double. They're expecting it to reach USD 669.153 million by 2033.
Wow. That's serious growth. It works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 10.80%.
10.8%. I mean, numbers like that, they really tell a story, don't they? It signals a real shift in what people want and what the industry is focusing on.
Definitely.
Okay, so before we dive deeper into, the market dynamics and all that, let's just level set. For anyone listening who isn't totally sure, what is textured pea protein?
Sure. So think of it basically as a plant-based ingredient, and it comes specifically from yellow peas.
Yellow peas, okay.
Yeah, and it's processed in a way that gives it this structure, a texture that can kind of mimic animal protein.
Ah, so the texture part is really important for, meat alternatives, burgers, that sort of thing.
Precisely. That's a huge application. The source really highlights that texture for replicating the mouthfeel of meat. But it's not just about texture. It packs a nutritional punch, too. It's naturally gluten-free, soy-free.
Yeah.
Which is a massive plus these days for a lot of people.
Big deal. Yeah. Allergy concerns.
Right. And the report mentions it generally has a pleasing taste and texture profile, making
Yeah.
it pretty easy to work with in different foods.
Okay, got it. So let's unpack this growth then. What's actually driving this explosion in the market? Why pea protein? Why now?
Well, the report points to the biggest driver being just the sheer momentum of the whole plant-based movement. Globally.
Right.
Consumer interest in diets like vegan, vegetarian, or even flexitarian, just cutting back on meat.
Yeah.
It's undeniably surging.
And we see that reflected elsewhere too, right? I think the source even mentions some data like the Plant-Based Foods Association saying sales jumped 6.6% in the U.S. back in 2022.
Exactly. That broader trend creates this huge demand for protein sources that work, that scale. And pea protein is really stepping into that gap.
Okay.
But it's more than just replacing meat. The report talks about rising health consciousness. People are recognizing what it calls pea powder's remarkable nutritional profile.
Okay, tell us more about that profile. What makes it remarkable? High protein, obviously.
Yeah, high protein. It's got essential amino acids. It's quite digestible, good source of iron. And like we said, being allergy-friendly compared to soy or wheat, that just opens it up to way more people and products.
I see. And that ties directly into another trend. The report mentions this demand for fortified and functional foods. Foods with extra health benefits baked in.
Absolutely. It's a perfect fit. Because textured pea protein brings both the high protein and those functional properties like the texture we talked about. It's ideal for creating products aimed squarely at health-focused consumers. Think high-protein snacks, nutrient-boosted vegan burgers.
Yeah.
The source even cites an Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada report showing just how much that functional foods area is growing.
And I bet the sports and fitness world is jumping on this too, always looking for the next protein edge.
Oh, definitely. Clear connection there. The report flags increased demand from sports and fitness folks looking for plant-based options.
Yeah.
For muscle growth, recovery. Textured pea protein fits right into protein bars, powders, shakes, all that stuff.
And then there's the bigger picture stuff. Sustainability. That's got to be playing a role.
A huge role, critical piece, really. Both consumers and food companies are looking much harder at the environmental footprint of ingredients.
Compared to traditional animal agriculture, yeah.
Right. And pea protein is generally seen as a more sustainable option. That perception alone is really driving adoption across the board.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, and digging into the details. The report breaks down the market in a few ways. Let's start with the type of pea.
Right, so the main split they look at is yellow peas versus green peas.
And did the report suggest one was outpacing the other?
It did. It seems green peas probably have the larger share overall right now, just based on existing uses. But the report specifically highlights yellow peas as the fastest growing segment.
Huh. Interesting. Why yellow? What's driving that faster growth?
Several things, according to the source. One is their neutral flavor makes them really versatile. You can put them in almost anything without a strong pea taste.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
Plus, high protein content, very adaptable for meat alternatives, snacks, even dairy substitutes. And then there's the clean label demand, non-GMO, sustainable sources. Yellow peas often tick those boxes and can be more affordable than, say, soy or wheat protein.
Gotcha. So yellow is fast growing because it's kind of the flexible, cost-effective workhorse. What about green peas then? Why are they still significant?
Green peas have their own strengths, a different nutritional profile, that distinct green color, often higher in fiber, so they tend to be popular in more high-end health foods, specific sports nutrition products, functional drinks where maybe that color profile is a selling point.
Okay.
Their growth seems more driven by demand for minimally processed, maybe allergy-free proteins, where those specific green pea characteristics are actually desired.
Right. Yellow for speed and breadth, green for specific niches. Okay. Next category, nature. Conventional versus organic.
Unsurprisingly, conventional pea protein holds the biggest market share right now.
Yeah, that figures. Probably comes down to cost and just sheer availability for big manufacturers.
Exactly. Consistency, cost effectiveness.
Hmm.
For mass market stuff, conventional often wins out.
But is organic making moves? Is it growing?
Oh yeah. The report flags organic as the fastest growing segment here. It fits perfectly with everything we've been saying about consumer demand, clean label, non-GMO, responsibly sourced.
So people are willing to pay a bit more for that organic certification, believing in the benefits like fewer pesticides, better for the environment.
That seems to be the driver, yeah.
Uh,
Especially strong in places like North America and Europe, really piggybacking on that whole vegan and vegetarian trend. It's a classic tension, isn't it? Affordability versus values.
it really is. Okay, fascinating. Let's shift to end use. Where is all this stuff actually ending up?
The biggest slice of the pie, by a significant margin, is food processing.
Which makes sense. It's an ingredient for food.
Right. The report talks about the huge demand for plant-based protein within processed foods. We're talking meat substitutes, obviously, but also snacks, baked goods, ready meals, you name it.
And its properties help there, like water retention, texture.
Exactly. High protein, holds water well, improves texture.
Right.
Incredibly valuable for food formulators.
Okay, so food processing has the biggest share. But which end use is growing the fastest?
Okay, this one might be a bit of a surprise. The fastest growing segment, according to the report, is animal feed.
Animal feed. Really? That's not the first thing that springs to mind. Why is that accelerating so quickly?
I know, it seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But the report suggests it's gaining real traction. It's seen as a sustainable, nutrient-rich alternative to traditional feed components, like fish meal or soy.
Sustainable animal nutrition.
Precisely. With all the focus on the environmental impact of raising animals, feed companies are looking for better options. Pea protein offers a good amino acid balance. It's digestible, suitable for livestock, pets, poultry, even fish feed, aquaculture. And there's regulatory support in some places, plus that general push for more sustainable practices in animal farming.
That is a really key takeaway. While we see it in our veggie burgers, the biggest growth rate is actually in what we feed animals.
Wow. The report mentions other uses too, right? Sports nutrition, nutraceuticals.
Correct. Bakery, and so on. That versatility is key to its overall market strength. Okay, one last breakdown. Processing type.
Dry processing has the biggest share here.
Yes. Generally seen as more sustainable, often more affordable, uses things like milling, air classification, keeps protein high, good for clean label, non-GMO products because it's less reliant on chemicals.
Makes sense. So wet processing must be the fastest growing.
That's right. Wet processing uses liquids, solvents, to extract and isolate the protein. It yields these really high purity isolates.
And why are those in demand? They tend to be more digestible, they dissolve better, offer better functionality in certain ways. So they're preferred when you need a really smooth texture or a super neutral flavor. Think dairy alternatives, high protein drinks. That need for highly functional, high-protein, allergy-friendly ingredients is driving the fast growth there.
Got it. Okay, let's put this on the map. Geographically, where is this pea protein phenomenon really taking hold?
Well, globally, just to restate, We're at USD 2,980 million in 2025, heading towards that almost $6.8 billion mark by 2033. Big numbers?
And the report points to North America as the current leader, holding the biggest share.
It does. North America's got over 40% of the global revenue. That's about USD 1,102.60 million in 2025.
Dang.
And it's growing steadily, projected CAGR of 9.6%.
What's fueling that dominance over here?
The source mentions a few things. Strong sports nutrition market, high demand for gluten-free, plus growing concerns about red meat and health risks like cardiovascular disease. That's pushing consumers to plant-based.
And the U.S. is the biggest part of that North American market.
Yeah, the U.S. leads the way, valued at USD 869.95 million in 2025, growing at about 9.4% CAGR.
Okay. Europe must be a big player, too.
Absolutely. Significant share there, over 30% of global revenue. That's about USD 864.2 million in 2025. And interestingly, its projected CAGR is slightly higher than North America's at 9.8%.
Any specific countries called out in Europe?
Yeah, the UK is mentioned USD 145.19 million, growing fast at 10.6% CAGR. And Germany, USD 171.11 million, also strong at 10% CAGR.
Okay, so North America and Europe are the current heavyweights in terms of dollars. But where's the fastest growth happening? Where's the real acceleration?
That would be the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. Right now, it holds about 23% of the global revenue, so around USD 715.2 million in 2025.
Okay.
But it's projected to have the highest growth rate globally, an impressive CAGR of 13.7% between 2025 and 2033.
13.7%. Wow, that's way faster than North America or Europe. What's going on in APAC?
The report points to rising consumer demand for nutritional proteins, basically catching up on health awareness.
Yeah.
Plus rapid urbanization changing diets, and just more awareness and adoption by food and beverage companies in the region.
And within APAC, who's leading China? India.
China is the biggest market, value-wise, about USD 300.38 million in 2025, growing at a strong 13.2% CAGR. But India is projected to have the highest country-level CAGR in the whole report, accelerating at 15.6%.
15.6.
Yeah, starting from a smaller base, USD 71.52 million in 2025, but that growth potential is huge.
So the big takeaway on geography, North America and Europe are massive now, but the future growth engine really looks like Asia-Pacific. The report mentions other regions briefly, too.
It does, yeah. South America gets a nod, over 5% share, growing at 11.2% CAGR. The Middle East around 2% share, similar growth at 11.3% CAGR. And Africa, about 1% share, growing the slowest at 6.9% CAGR. So it really is global, but the speeds vary a lot.
Okay, it's clearly a market with a ton of positive momentum, but things are rarely that simple. What challenges or restraints did the report identify? What's holding back even faster growth?
Good question. The report highlights two main things. First one is cost.
It's expensive to make.
It can be, yeah. Producing textured pea protein. It's pretty technology intensive. You've got extraction, isolation, the texturizing process itself. It needs specialized equipment, uses energy.
Supply chain stuff too, I imagine.
Exactly, all adds up. So the final ingredient and the products made with it often end up costing more than, say, traditional animal proteins or even simpler plant proteins like basic soy concentrate. That can definitely put off price-conscious consumers.
Makes sense. What was the second restraint?
Navigating regulations, stringent guidelines.
The red tape.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Manufacturing involves complex rules, food safety standards, labeling requirements, and potentially new regulations specifically for these novel plant-based ingredients. It just adds complexity and cost, especially if you're selling internationally.
Okay. So given this bounding but also somewhat challenging market, who are the main companies competing here? Who are the key players?
It's definitely a competitive space. The report notes companies are really focusing on innovating, diversifying their products, making strategic partnerships, that kind of thing.
Any specific names mentioned in the source that stand out?
Yeah, it lists quite a few. Big names like Roquette Frères, Purus Foods, DuPont Nutrition Biosciences, Kerry Group, Emsland Group from Germany, Yantai Shuangta Food from China, and many others. It's a crowded field.
And are these companies making noticeable moves? Did the source give examples?
It did provide a few recent examples, like Roquette invested in a Japanese food tech company called DAIZ, focusing on plant-based innovation there.
Okay.
Royal DSM launched what they called a unique textured pea canola protein. Interesting blend, claiming it was maybe the first textured option free from soy, gluten, and dairy, but still having all essential amino acids.
Wow. Okay, pushing the boundaries.
And on the M&A side, DCP Capital acquired Cargill Protein China. That suggests players are trying to shore up their positions in those key growth markets, like China.
Right. So we're seeing investment, innovation, acquisitions,
Yeah.
the whole competitive playbook. Now, it's clear this market isn't just floating in space. The source looked at broader factors too, didn't it? External influences.
It did, yeah. It tries to put the textured pea protein market in context. Considers how big global events or trends might ripple through. Things like potential impacts from trade disputes. It specifically mentions analyzing effects from dynamics like uh, Trump's tariff war.
Okay, so geopolitical stuff.
Yeah, and broader economic shifts. Social trends like these changing diets we've discussed, new processing technologies, legal factors, environmental regulations. They often analyze this using frameworks like PESTEL, political, economic, social, tech, environmental, legal, or ESG, environmental, social, governance.
Right. It just shows how interconnected everything is. It's not just about farming peas. It's tied into global trade, consumer values, technology, so many layers.
Exactly.
So let's bring it all together. What does this all mean for you listening right now?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that textured pea protein isn't just some fringe ingredient anymore. It's really moving towards the center stage. It's on this clear, strong growth path.
Driven by these big shifts towards plant-based, health-focused, and sustainable eating.
Right. And we've seen how that plays out. Huge demand in food processing, so you'll likely see it in more and more products on the shelves. But also that's surprising rapid growth in animal feed.
Yeah, that was eye-opening. And geographically, while North America and Europe are the big markets today, keep your eye on Asia-Pacific for that explosive growth.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it? How one crop, the humble pea, is becoming such a significant player in the future of food globally.
So here's something to think about. As global demand for protein keeps rising, and as we all get, more discerning about where our food comes from and its impact, just how profoundly might the pea reshape not only what's on our plates, but maybe global agriculture, supply chains, the whole system in the coming years? And maybe, what's next? What's the next plant protein source waiting in the wings to have its moment?